Hello and welcome to the very first inaugural meeting of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, where my good friend Corey and myself, Graham, meet to discuss any topics from worms to the sentience of life and anything in between: video games, movies, music, your great Aunt Jennifer. And we like to get high. We like to get high, and we like to get drunk, and we like to discuss things like that. And so this is the first one. And I'm going to kick it off by asking my good friend Corey what that lovely colored drink is that he's sipping on right there.
Well, howdy, Graham. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
Glad to hear it.
But
how's
don't
your
worry
great
about
Aunt Jennifer?
me.
I'm worried about her.
Oh, she's lovely, feisty as ever.
Ooh, you know I like them feisty.
Mm.
I am drinking a Manhattan, my cocktail of choice. Quite delicious. I make mine with bourbon. So you put a little bourbon, a little red vermouth, a little dry vermouth, some bitters, and then I like to put also a little splash of cherry juice in there to to go along with the garnish of the cherry that you might see at the bottom.
Now, I take issue with this. You use
umbrage?
cherry. I take umbrage. I do. You might say I take Dolores with this.
Ooh, Harry Potter fans.
Yeah. You use cherry juice instead of real, honest to God cherries, and some would consider this a sin. Not all.
I mean, it could be
just me.
It could be the cardinal, the eighth cardinal sin. Yeah, I guess you could consider that. But I do use real cherries. If you look really close, there is a nice cherry garnish at the bottom. Enough about me. What are you smoking there? It looks like some delicious herb.
I am smoking some delicious key lime pie, which is a AA sativa that I got from a local delivery dispensary in BC, Canada. It is quite tasty, and I wouldn't say that it tastes like key lime pie, but I can't really think of anything else that it would taste like, so I guess they nailed that.
I've always, speaking of taking umbrage and Dolores Jane with shit, where do people come up with the names for these strains of weed?
Well, I mean, I would say the same thing about your beer, sir.
Fair enough. That's touche. Are you really smoking key lime pie there?
I am smoking key lime pie. I just had to check on that. But
okay.
That's the thing. You can't always tell. Yes, there are distinct flavors, but sometimes they can, flow together. You can't always tell. Like, oh, this one had a little bit of a tang, but that one had a bit of a, whatever, something else. You can't always tell that. It's not always
you just
a 100%.
Smoke so much weed that it all blends together in your brain.
I mean, that is a legitimate critique and concern, but it's okay.
Oh, I'm not concerned.
But what I'm saying is, it's the same thing with like most other alcohols. Like I've had probably 6 or 7 different brands of gin. I've had probably about 5 or 6 different brands of tequila, but 5 or 6 different brands of whiskey, and probably 50 different brands of beer across 3 or 4 different segments.
Your parents owned a winery, right?
We owned a winery, and I can tell you we have many different types of wine, and I cannot tell you a distinct difference between the different wines. Sure, some of them might be a little darker, like some of them might but usually the ones that are darker will the ones that are all kind of that have a darker taste to them will have similar tastes to each other, and so you can't tell those ones apart, but you can be like, okay, so the Syrah, the Merlot, and the Cabernet Sauvignon, those ones have kind of similar dark flavors, but then the Cabernet Franc and the Zinfandel, those ones are much lighter, and so you can tell those ones are different, but you can't tell those two apart, if that makes sense. So I have the same thing with like beers. Like you can't always tell
Whoa, no.
If it's IPAs. Hold on. So if
Nectar of the Gods, you're talking.
I'm talking about Nectar of the Gods, and I love a good beer. But like, think about this.
You like the Fat Tug IPA.
I do. I love good IPA. That's my thing. But like, think about it. Yes. Many different IPAs will have a distinct flavor, but if you were to blindfold me and give me 10 different IPAs that I'd probably be able to name like 1 or 2 of them, but it would also be like, that one could be in this other one as well. Like they all have similar, like especially IPAs and IPAs as their own division, and malts as their own division, and amber lagers as their own division, like different divisions of beer will have very, very similar tastes. That's basically what I'm driving at here.
You speak blasphemy, sir.
I'm sure I do. But and this is coming from someone who adores beer. I'm the first one to get beer at a bar. So
no, it's false. Second.
So okay,
Hello.
You're the first one to get. But when you're not there at the bar, who's the first one to get beer? Probably still you.
No, still me. Fuck you.
But
Rest
anyway,
assured, no matter what bar you go to, Corey's drinking beer.
Anyway, Corey, before we get started, I just felt like we should introduce ourselves a little bit. Obviously, I should get started. Just kind of set the record straight. I'm Graham.
Ladies first.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. You know how to treat a man like a real lady. So obviously, I'm Graham. And I like to get high. I like to smoke the weed, that ganj. I like to get high. I like to watch movies, TV shows, write, play video games. Generally, just things that I like. I like to tell stories, and I like to be a part of stories and experience them. Well, what about you, Corey? What interests you? Do you think?
This Manhattan for sure.
I can tell.
It's quite tasty.
You're making love to it.
Yeah. So, folks, my name's Corey. Graham and I know each other from attending film school together. So by that logic, you can understand that I also have a love for films, filmmaking, stories, telling stories, being a part of stories. I do enjoy writing, but I am nowhere near as good as everyone else in the world. My writing is not great, but I do love being behind a camera, whether it's doing filming or photography. And in my downtime, I like long walks on the beach.
Oh, do you?
Puzzle here and there. No, just kidding. I like to play video games. Speaking of which, I think Sony just dropped some new games on us recently with their State of Play. You want to go ahead and dive into that?
They did. Yeah, let's talk about that. PlayStation State of Play. Let's dive in. June 2nd was PlayStation's first State of Play in, I think, 2.5 months. Roughly.
Si, senor.
Yeah, roughly. What did you think of that? Did you see it? No, take your time. It's not like we're recording or anything.
I am pausing for dramatic effect.
And you're doing beautifully, honey.
Thank you, dear. Yeah, I caught the State of Play. I'm a big Sony fan. I think they do a really great job delivering their content in nicely done, quick and concise format. I mean, the State of Play, we got about a half hour, and a very packed half hour. I will say overall, maybe 85% of it didn't really blow my skirt up, but that's a personal choice.
That's fair.
Just from the games that we saw, not a whole lot of my interest, but there was definitely a lot to unpack there. And I mean, it kicked off with the reveal of a remake of a game that's been popular since the Nintendo GameCube days. People would like to forget that Resident Evil 4 by Capcom was originally produced and developed
for the GameCube
and released on the fucking GameCube, the Barney lunchbox of consoles.
Now, wasn't it released for all 3 consoles of that generation, or no, GameCube exclusively? It only later
started. Yeah, it later got ported over to PlayStation 2.
What would now be considered a launch exclusive.
Yes. It is now considered a launch exclusive. You could use that vernacular. But at the time, it was Capcom had a deal with Nintendo, and they pumped out this fantastic Resident Evil game that really redefined the franchise. 1 was considered, groundbreaking. 2 was a great sequel. 3 sort of didn't really do much for many people. It just, it didn't really didn't move heaven and earth or anything. But then 4 just came out, and you got Leon Kennedy with a nice over-the-shoulder camera, and it just revolutionized the series and really breathed new life into it. It was fantastic. So to have a remake of this game coming out, that looks just so fantastic. It gave me a lot of Final Fantasy VII's remakes vibes.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, like just like the gorgeous graphics and the aesthetic and just what we're feeling, and overhaul on all the characters. And looks like they're gonna deep dive more into each character's backstory, as well as tying that story together to the now very popular Resident Evil 7 and 8 that have been dropping out, that have also kind of breathed new life into the series. 5 and 6 kind of floundered. They turned towards more action, but 7 with its first person perspective, and then 8 continued that trend, and it looks fantastic. So I think they're really going to try to tie it all together. So I was blown away just by the footage alone.
And with what it looked like they were announcing alongside 4 remake was that they're also going to be doing some VR. I don't know the extent. It said VR content. I'm not sure
into it.
I'm not sure to what extent that means, but I based off of what they showed of Resident Evil Village being put on VR, my guess is that they're going to do a normal version and then a VR version will come out soon after.
Mm-hmm. Probably a safe bet.
Yeah, and the thing that I found most interesting, obviously besides Final Fantasy 16, but we'll get to that, was the VR segment.
Jump straight into the PSVR 2. So there, the new VR system for PlayStation has been announced. Mm-hmm. We don't have much details on it yet, but they showed off just a slew of great looking games.
Yeah, can I say that the VR looked a lot more like it just looked smooth,
polished.
Yeah, polished. It's looking great.
I'm excited. Like I've been wanting to dive into VR and haven't really pulled the trigger, but I think I'm gonna. I think the PSVR is going to be the way to do it.
That's what I've been telling myself. I've been saying if they do an Oculus Quest 3 or PSVR 2, I'm doing those. And PSVR 2 got announced first, so they have my money. Anyway, back to PS.
Back to the task at hand.
Back to the task
We're talking about virtual reality on the PlayStation.
Yes,
the Sony
exactly.
State of Play.
Exactly.
With a nice little segue going from Resident Evil 4 over to Resident Evil 8. Is Village 8? First of all, let me ask you this: did you ever get into the Resident Evil series?
I have never played any of the games. No, I have not.
Okay,
so I've always been interested.
Yeah,
but I'm not a huge horror video game fan. Let me explain. I like horror movies. I don't seek them out, but I really enjoy them when I see them. You have
this much time.
Okay. I don't actively seek out horror movies, but when I see them, I love them. But when it comes to horror video games, I simply cannot play them. There is a brick wall in my nervous system that prevents me from doing anything stupid.
Pink Floyd.
So I know when I'm watching a horror film, I have no control over the characters doing stupid things, because horror is almost always based off of people making bad decisions, stupid decisions. Like, oh, there was a crazy sound that just came from the basement. Well, I guess I should go check it out instead of leaving. All of my friends have been murdered. I'm still here, though. Horror.
You hear that, folks? That is the first high opinion of the night.
Horror movies are fundamentally based off of people not being smart enough to just walk away, to just say, fuck this. I'm not dealing with this. So I, on the other hand, as much as I would love to play horror games, because I'd like to turn that part of my brain off and just say, I'm going to be an idiot for a while and do this. I can't do that. When it says go check the basement, I say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm leaving. I will check everything.
This house is spooky. Maybe I should go inside. Nope.
You know what? I'm going to go anywhere else but this house.
I hear Hawaii's nice this time of year.
Exactly. Like, why the hell?
Bitches.
Why would I bother? Honestly, like, I don't understand.
Fair enough. I've never done the Resident Evil games just because I understand it's a lot of like resource management, of which I'm just garbage.
Yeah, that's fair.
When it comes to shooters, I am just spray and pray. I just go in. I'm like, there's an enemy, kill it.
Kill it.
And I shoot it 100 times and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm out of bullets. And then I'm really fucked because Mr. X is coming after me or Nemesis. So I never really got into the games. But I don't know. This remake of 4 might drive me to give them a check out because 4 and 7 and 8 they've all looked really intriguing, and this new VR looks fantastic.
Village always intrigued me. Like I've been seeing footage of Resident Evil Village for the last
the tall ass lady.
Yeah, the woman who Dimitrescus or something. Dimitrescus.
No, you just pissed off every fan we have.
I'm just trying to remember it off the top of my head. We'll fact check this and get it right next time. But for
big old lady D,
the one who's been thirsted after by all the virgin gamers, yeah. So like the game looks really interesting, and I want to get into it. I think Village actually might get me into it a little bit more because it seems more like you're coming in here to fuck it up. Whereas most other horror games in the past have a lot of other horror games have been like you're trying to like sneak through or trying to figure out something without doing too much combat. Where I guess I can kind of do horror where it's not really horror. You're just kind of like machine gunning your way through it. And from the footage I've seen of Resident Evil Village, it seems to be that a little bit. It seems more actiony. I think you
just saw more of a highlight reel than anything.
I guess it just looks more actiony than the previous games.
Because 5 and 6 were really actiony versus like stealth and resource management, and that's why people really didn't gravitate towards them. But 7 got back to like the horror vibes, and 8 I hear has a lot of that as well. I think you were just watching like highlight reels of the action without the suspense. So.
Yeah, no, we are products of what we find in our
good old marketing.
Yeah, marketing. Whatever is sent to us, whatever's in our what's the algorithm? Yeah, whatever finds its way into our algorithm is,
once again, we'd like to thank Mark Zuckerberg for his hard work.
We'd like to thank Mark Zuckerberg for being a parasite in our fucking lives.
So moving on, speaking of parasites, great segue. The next VR game we got to see a little footage of was Walking Dead Redemption, which really didn't do anything for me. I know this is a cardinal sin, but I never really got into the series, the TV show, and now there's like 4 other spin-offs, and the zombie genre has never really done anything for me. So Retribution, it looked fine.
I liked Walking Dead a lot in season 1. I liked season 1 Walking Dead a lot. I liked season 2 a lot. And then I tried to get excited for season 3, watched the first episode, and just kind of lost interest.
Fair enough. Speaking of, let's keep that trend going. Speaking of people who had a lot of excitement at the beginning and then lost interest when it came out, No Man's Sky was the 3rd VR game.
Now I have to tell you,
a redemption arc. Holy
redemption
shit.
arc! I was very excited about No Man's Sky when it came out, or before it came out. I never played it. My brother played it, and he semi liked it. Like I think he kind of liked it in the sense of like, I paid money for this and I want to be excited about it. I've been excited about it for a long time, so I'm going to just like trick myself into believing it's good.
Same could be said for getting a hooker.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But like, when you want to convince yourself that something is good because you've spent so much time wanting to believe that it will be good. My brother did that for like a week, and then like,
that sounds like our friendship.
Yeah, and then wow, fuck you. And then 2 weeks later, he was like, this game is not very good. But then it of course started getting better and better reviews, and I have gotten more increasingly excited about it. And when they announced it for VR, I don't know why, but I hit like peak excitement for this game because I don't know why this just feels like a perfect game. It feels like doing Minecraft in VR, but Minecraft would suck in VR. I'm sorry. The graphics wouldn't work unless you like really did
I'm sorry. Minecraft sucks no matter what.
I like Minecraft. You don't. Agree to disagree. We're just gonna have to move on from this. We'll move on from this. I like Minecraft. It does not work as a VR game. I'm sorry,
Graham. We're moving on.
Okay, we're moving on. Anyway,
smoke your bong. I'll have some moment of silence from your ass. God damn. The last VR game that PlayStation announced was Horizon Call of the Wild, which is a a spin-off from the very popular Guerrilla Games duo series of games called Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. Game I mentioned earlier. That's I just beat Forbidden West earlier this week, and fuck, are those just two fantastic games in terms of storytelling, in terms of graphics. I would say range combat is fantastic. The melee combat in both the games is lacking, in my personal opinion. But just great games. So this Call of the Wild, I'm very intrigued by. Very intrigued that we're not playing as the original protagonist of the games, Aloy. We're playing as a looks like an outcast to one of the tribes from the games, known as the Karja. So that was the first thing that stood out to me, and then just the combat and the up close and personal attention to detail with the machines looks fantastic. And then I'm really intrigued by like where this ties into the game, because the trailer specifically says like you're figuring out why the machines have gone bad, or gone, rogue and attacking people. But like, that's something you figure out in the first game. So where does this take place in the continuity? So
Interesting.
That's a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer. I've
postulating. Anyway, what were some other things that were announced at the?
So following the Horizon Forbidden West update, we got Spidey on PC, Spider-Man, both the remastered and the Miles Morales.
I was just reading an article that said that Insomniac once said that they were never going to do that, and Twitter remembers.
That's fine.
They're bringing all those tweets back.
I honestly don't really.
Yeah.
Like, you bring it to PC. That's fine, because there's PC gamers and there's console gamers. And as a console gamer, the layman has to make a choice between Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo. But a lot of people are just PC gamers. That's solely what they do. So I think I've never bummed when they bring in a console exclusive to the PC, because that's just expanding their market. Or even multi-platform doesn't really bother me, because even Marvel Microsoft came out recently and said that Marvel approached them first about exclusivity on their IP on some of the games that they want to develop, and Microsoft was like, no, we're good. So they went to Sony, and that's when we got the Spider-Man game, which I have beaten both the Spider-Man game and Miles Morales, and they are fucking fantastic.
I'm excited to jump into them when they become available on the new PS Plus streaming service.
Definitely check them out. I mean, they're just so fantastic.
Yeah.
So putting them on PC, that looks I have no quarrels with that. I think that's a great choice.
As you know, I'm a huge proponent of just making games available on all systems. In any way, shape, or form, get them out there, let people play them however they want to. So I'm just laughing that Insomniac made such a huge deal about never doing this, and now they're like, all right, we'll do it.
Yeah, fair enough. The next game that was announced on the State of Play, game called Stray, which, if I remember correctly, was announced at
my brother and his girlfriend are really excited about this game.
For those who don't know, Stray is you play as a cat going around a cyberpunk city. By this trailer, it looks like the cat gets the ability to commune with other objects.
Looks like
I'll
robots.
be honest, this game does not really intrigue me.
Okay, I have to tell you, it didn't at first, but after the State of Play yesterday, I was very intrigued. This looked very interesting, the way they were presenting it, like the gameplay of running around and interacting with robots of the underground, and kind of fighting enemies by shooting off just little rockets from the backpack, I guess, and then attacking with claws. And
it reminded me a lot of Little Big Planet, where you get a unique perspective on the everyday world. And I'll hand it to it. The game looks great. It just why would I want to play as a cat?
That's fair.
The next game we got to see was the Callisto Protocol, which, going back to the Resident Evil conversation, kind of looked like one of them horror suspenseful games. It gave me a lot of what's that game, Dead Space vibes.
Yeah, Yeah.
So
Remind me what was it called again?
Callisto Protocol.
Callisto Protocol. Yeah, that one looked very interesting. I didn't
a lot of
didn't
gore,
take
a lot of blood and guts.
It wasn't one that grabbed like my
space.
total attention. It was one of the ones that kind of fell by the wayside and
Yeah.
over some of the more interesting ones on the list. But it's definitely something interesting that I will check out because you know me, I like sci-fi. I like
Yeah,
stuff
it looked
like
like
that.
there was nothing
yeah.
wrong with it. It was very niche, you know. The
I'd
horror
watch
space
somebody
people,
play it.
People who like Dead Space.
It's a horror. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Dead Space, and we already talked about how I don't like horror. So or horror video games. So
This might not be up your alley. Then.
I'll probably watch somebody play it. It's like a movie, you know.
Loser.
Somebody else
Way
can
to steal money from the developers.
Somebody
asshole.
else can make those stupid decisions, like going in that basement. I won't do it, but they can, and I'll watch it.
Fair
and
enough.
I'll judge.
Following that, we got Roller Drome, which to me, you know, with the cel shaded graphics, kind of looked like roller derby with guns.
Yes.
You're clearly excited about this.
I don't know why. I got super excited about it when I saw it. I was instantly sold.
It gave me some Rocket League vibes, you know, one of those type of games.
Yeah. No, you know
just
what?
kind of continuously playable.
Like just goofy Tony Hawk game with guns and robots.
It did.
And
I wrote the same thing.
I was like,
Tony Hawk meets
goofy.
like Jet Set Radio.
That's goofy. That's what I want.
With guns.
I'll take it.
I like the aesthetic. It looked interesting for sure. It looked better than the next game, Eterna Nights, which was like an anime action game mixed with a dating simulator.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 6.
Street Fighter 6. That looked interesting. So,
but 6 looks pretty dope.
Yeah, it did. I've not played a lot of the Street Fighter games, but have the past ones kind of let you run around and pick the fights, or have they mostly been like Mortal Kombat where you just kind of pick the characters and go into an arena and fight, or into a
I can't answer that for 100% certainty, but I don't think so.
Because this one
so.
Looked like it was kind of inspired, and it would make sense. It's Capcom. Looked like it was inspired by Yakuza, the Yakuza games.
A little bit, yeah.
Like having a kind of a small, not a huge, not a small, like a medium kind of city with activities and stuff, with a story where you run around and pick the fights with people. And that intrigued me. No, I like the team that did that. And I wonder if that's the team that's working on Street Fighter right now, because the combat also looked kind of like Yakuza. And Fist of the North Star.
Well, no, I think Yakuza's combat looks like Street Fighter.
Well, no, Street Fighter is so it's side by side. It's I smoked the word away again.
2-dimensional.
Two-dimensional. Linear side scroller. That's the one I was looking for. Whereas Yakuza is usually like you are third person of the character running around beating the shit out of people. But with the 3D graphics added to this, it kind of looked like the Yakuza games a little bit. And so I was just wondering if maybe the team who worked on those games is working on the new Street Fighter. It could be, at least for the open world segments where you're running around. At least maybe for those segments, it would be interesting. It'd be interesting. It is Capcom after all, same company. So, we'll see. It intrigued me. What's next on the roster?
After Street Fighter, we had a couple of indie games. They announced 2 indie games coming to PlayStation 5. The first and foremost was Tunic, which is a Legend of Zelda clone. Came out on PC and Xbox, I believe, beforehand. And this game looks so adorable, so much fun, so cute, and really engrossing. I think I'm going to wait until they put it on the Switch, though, personally.
That's fair. It feels like a game. I like my indie games on Switch. Game.
Yeah, the Switch feels like a great console for indie games. Yeah. So I'm going to wait for that one. And then after that was a game called Season, A Letter to the Future, which
That one was
I
weird.
really don't.
I didn't know what to make of this one.
Exactly. I wasn't quite sure what to make on that. The most unique part of it that stood out to me was there's a couple of segments that you see like they're first person, but it's through a camera lens. So like the characters like either taking photos or like video
Yeah.
of what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't know what to take of that one. So we'll see what happens when it comes up. But I got really no much to say on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting, obviously.
We ended this state of play with a new trailer from Square Enix of Final Fantasy 16.
Hold on.
Holding. Oh, you didn't hold it, you little bitch.
Okay, continue. Final Fantasy 16. Let's get into it.
Final Fantasy 16 trailer dropped, a new trailer. So this is the second full trailer we've gotten. And this one included a lot more extensive, what we could consider gameplay footage. I think we got some of that in the last trailer, but this one was like more clearly, like, we got to see the user interface, the UI, and how it kind of, and how the look and the feel and maybe how the combat goes. I was reading an article too that like a lot of the alumni on this game, or not alumni, but a lot of the developers are alumni of big Sony games like Devil May Cry, which I think this trailer really reflects that. We got a lot of hack and slash, a lot of movement, a lot of color. Definitely turning away from the turn-based strategy game those turn-based strategy games that Final Fantasy grew up with.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, Square has definitely been changing up the combat ever since 12. 12 was more of an MMO with a menu-based system, and then 13 had an even more advanced menu system. 15 brought us into the world of like a lot, more of a hack and slash, pseudo hack and slash sort of vibe, and then this one kind of looks to be fully embracing it. Almost like what we got to see in Strangers of Paradise, which is the new Final Fantasy offshoot game from Team Ninja. But I'm hoping the combat's more relevant to like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I think you'll agree with me.
It doesn't look
hit the
like
nail
that.
On the head on the combat, but yeah,
it doesn't
I agree.
look like that. I wanted it to be that way as well. As you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake is in my top 3 favorite games of all time. I love Final Fantasy VII. It's one of my favorite games of all time, but 7 Remake made the top 3. And it was mostly because of the combat system. I loved what they did with the story first and foremost, but the combat system I felt like they had finally figured out how to bring the original turn-based system menus into the 21st century. They had finally figured it out. Seeing Final Fantasy 16's combat, the way it's progressing and the way they're showing it to us, is really bumming me out, I have to admit. So I'm very excited for the game. I love everything Final Fantasy. I'll take anything I can get. But it's kind of bumming me out a little bit, I have to say, because they finally found a combat system that is just magnificent, and they're leaving it behind for Devil May Cry style combat. The combat designer was the same guy who did Devil May Cry 5 and Dragon's Dogma. I love both of those games. They're both very fun to play. But that's a different kind of combat system. That's something that I expect from those games. It's not something that not something that I would really look for in a Final Fantasy game, not from a main line Final Fantasy game. I already didn't really like the direction they were going with Final Fantasy 15 or 13. I just feel like it's at least getting better than those games, but in a different direction that I was hoping for. That's fine.
Yeah.
Creative differences. I just personally am a little disappointed.
No, I agree with you. I think 7 really hit the nail on the head, and I'm curious to know like the development cycles between these games. Obviously, 16 has probably been in development for a long time, and
Yeah.
maybe the combat was designed before 7 remake, or vice versa,
That's
or
very fair.
one team isn't talking to the other. So who knows what happens there? But yeah, I agree with you. When I saw the shots of the combat, I was like, okay.
It feels like Witcher 3 meets Devil May Cry 5 with the aesthetic and continuity of Final Fantasy.
Which I guess is okay.
That's it's okay. It's not what I expected from a mainline.
Yeah, so we'll
Final
see.
Fantasy game.
Yeah. Square has done a lot of wrong in the last couple of years.
Ooh.
With like Avengers and the last Tomb Raider and Riders
and don't get me started on everything they're doing in the
segment.
I could go off.
They really do try to pay attention to their Final Fantasy games, and whether or not you agree with, whether or not you like the combat system of like 12, 13, or 15, they are still very solid games. They're still very polished, and they know what they want. 15, I mean, I would argue 15's biggest beef wasn't so much the combat, but so much the money grubbing of like the story's lore, where it's like, hey, we're gonna give you the game and you can play the game, it's fine.
Yeah.
But then you have all the little DLC that fills in the gaps. And then we also have Kingsglaive, which is kind of like the opening movie that sets up the story. So if you don't watch that movie, you're not going to really fully understand the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a universe that they tried to build. And I appreciate that, but I don't like it when it relies on that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, it should be supplemental, not required. So that was 15's beef. But like...
Well, the
combat I found to be fairly enjoyable, and 13 was different. I give it that. Same with 12. So it's really just depends on what you kind of hold in priority.
I liked,
but we'll see what happens with 16. I'm first, the big thing that I'm loving 12. About it is they seem to be putting a focus on the summons for these things that appear in Final Fantasy games, but at the end of the day, it just looks like we're going to get some fucking kaiju battles going on.
That does interest me. That does interest me because I think it's something that they've always wanted to do. It's just, they couldn't because
reasons.
Technology. What did you think of the state of play overall?
Like I said at the beginning, I thought it was a very solid state of play that showed off a lot of great variety of games. We got horror in there. We got action. We got an IP that we know and love. We ended on an IP that everybody loves.
We got two very, very intriguing.
We got
indies,
indie games.
Yeah.
Tunic coming to PlayStation. That's very big.
Very
we got some Spidey on
people.
PC, which I adored the Spidey games. So the more people playing that, the better.
Yeah.
So I think it was overall, like objectively, it was a very solid state of play. Personally, I just was like, all right, some cool stuff because like I've already beaten Spidey, so that meant nothing to me.
That's fair.
I'm intrigued by Horizon on VR.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see that they're continuously updating Forbidden West because, like I said, I just beat that game, so having some additional reasons to go back to that world is awesome to me. But like Stray and Resident Evil, just not really doing it for me. And then Final Fantasy 16. I love seeing the footage. I love seeing it, but when the last bit came up, it said summer of 2023. So we're talking about a year from now.
Yeah.
It just took all the wind out of my sails because that means I have to wait another 12 months before I even play anything that we just saw.
Yeah, that's fair.
I am not a patient individual.
No, that's absolutely fair. In my experience, 12 months flies by.
It's because you're young.
Yeah, I know. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought this was a very good state of play, especially considering the last any state of play in the last like 2 years since COVID has just kind of sucked. And
just kind of
sick. And this was a really refreshing, like everybody got something interesting and good and exciting. We got, like you said, lots of good IPs. So I was pretty happy I think I was a little more happy than you were, a little more excited about certain things. But I think we can agree that maybe PlayStation has picked it up this time around a little bit.
I have one final question before we finish out this segment.
Go ahead.
Where is my God of War Ragnarok?
Certainly some bullshit we talked about tonight, but you know,
some great bullshit.
I think that's the whole goal of the Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions. You know, each week grab some buds and suds and just talk about some of that bullshit. And you know, Sony State of Play.
Yeah, I
Good
enjoyed
thoughts,
this
good
talk. I think we
opinions.
should do this more often. You know?
Yeah.
And I hope the people out there want us to keep doing this. I hope. Probably not. They probably can't stand either of us, especially me. I understand. Nobody does. But
Fuck them. We'll make more.
we'll just keep doing this for us. For us.
Just saturate the market.
We'll just saturate the market. Fuck all the haters. I want to get high and talk Star Wars.
Fair enough. And I like to get drunk and just talk about whatever.
Yeah. You have some great drunk thoughts, man.
Your high opinions are valued.
Oh, wow. That was a measured compliment.
I mean, I could put it in a measuring cup, I guess.
Well, we'll have to save that for later. For now, I think that we should call it a night. And for our viewers at home, I think that they should like, subscribe, and hit us with their own drunk thoughts or high opinions, or a little bit of this and that. So, catch you next time.
Cheers, everybody.